Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!
Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Live. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you'd like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live. There's also a PayPal, Patreon and crypto link in the info box below the video. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the nature of Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel. So please share the show on Facebook and Twitter. And one last time, if you're new to the channel or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. Now we are joined by Sleeping Warrior, Chocolate Saiyan, No Righteous Force today, Flatzoid and 10th Man, together with a whole bunch of people in Discord. So welcome one and all.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good afternoon.
Hello, hello, hello. Any evidence of a physical Earth curve edge?
That's not how you normally word it.
No.
No.
Yes, there is.
Oh,
Yes,
really?
there is.
Oh, really? Where is that?
Hold on, Brenda, you've already told us that we never see a geometric horizon. We've got that on record from you. So if you're about to lie in the housekeeping session, I'm going to kick you out immediately. You've already told us that we never see a geometric horizon. Those were your words.
Yes, but the evidence.
Sorry, yes, but! Yes, but! How fucking dare you!
What are you, a fucking child?
You're gonna leave. Don't come here and just immediately lie to me as soon as I open the live show. How dare you? Yes, but. So, Brenda's come here and told us in no uncertain terms that we don't have a geometric horizon. Yeah? So, what, when I ask if we've got one, having declared quite boldly that we never ever see it, she's gonna tell me we see it? Lying pieces of shit. They make my blood boil. Any evidence of any Earth curvature?
No.
Any evidence of axial rotation?
Nope.
Any scientific
I mean,
evidence of gravity?
that's-
Oh, go on. Go on.
No, I was just saying you might need an axis first,
Yeah.
which would require a curve, which we don't have.
Any scientific evidence of gravity?
No, it's just an effect.
Any single viable hypothesis from any of the fields of astronomy, cosmology, or astrophysics?
No, Danny Faulkner has never performed an experiment in astrology, ever. He wrote a book, talked about gravity and refuting the claims of the flat earthers. Didn't mention Einstein, the current position in science. I don't know how you can get away with writing a book on gravity and not mentioning the current position. It's ridiculous.
Hey, Owen.
Hello. Hello, guys.
Hey.
Subscribe to Flat Earth Early Bird. It goes out before this show every day. Any evidence of the distance?
To Arwin.
Subscribe to Arwin, I should say. Yeah, ARWIJN. Check it out. Any evidence of the distance to the sun?
No.
No. It's over there.
The distance, specifically.
Yeah, it's over there.
That's not
What,
very
you go with
helpful.
angles?
Angles? That's not distance. Come on, this is the most responsive we've got for this question for ages.
But
What is the angular distance of the sun?
I'm sure they use angles.
Is that a thing? Angular distance? I
No,
don't think that's a thing.
Yeah, make
Contradicting.
I think it's a thing in heliocentrism, though. Correct me if I'm
So you
wrong,
have to make
Anthony.
assumptions.
Really?
I don't think so. It seems self-contradictory. But then again, they are ballers, so...
I'm sure I can hear Anthony trying to get the answer out.
No, it's not me.
Oh, is it someone else?
It was me, but
Go on, Flatside.
it's fine. My mic is terrible today. I was just saying they work with triangles and distances, but always assuming they assume nothing.
Is it worth going through the Huygens assumptions? We just move on. It is housekeeping.
No.
I tell you what, I'll do it in one sentence. If you assume the Earth's a sphere by applying Eratosthenes calculations, and then assume that Venus is the same size as Earth, you can map out the whole of the solar system. Don't make it true, though.
Any evidence of a self-perpetuating molten iron core at the centre of a presupposed spherical Earth?
Just an 8-mile hole, Nathan.
The centre of a presupposed spherical Earth. 8 miles, that's not going to cut it.
No, just an 8-mile hole. That's all they've got.
That's no good. It's
The
no good.
molten iron core really seems to me now in the row of all the housekeeping questions like the most outdated concept of the ballers.
Yeah,
Still taught in schools.
Because they've only got a hole. That's the best that they've got.
Still taught in
It's grown
schools.
old and silent.
Still taught in schools. Seems
I've got
outdated.
a housekeeping question for Brenda. Are you there, Brenda?
No, I've kicked her out.
Oh.
For lying immediately as soon as the show opened.
I was going to ask her, is there any evidence for the ether? We know that ballers say, you can't have the ether because it's never been proven. And okay, fair enough. But why can they have the geometry of the Earth if they haven't proved it? Seems to be contradictory in my position, my opinion.
Yeah, I was just going to say, while it might seem like an outdated concept because it's never, ever, ever, ever got a response from anybody ever in the last year and a half, doesn't alter the fact that tomorrow some kid's going to get indoctrinated with that garbage.
Yep.
Anyway, any evidence of the R value, Earth radius?
No.
Anybody in Discord? Everyone's definitely off mute.
Well, if they would produce a geometric horizon, like they say, they might have a good starting point.
Yeah, we've debunked that. We covered that on the pre-show. So you
So
can't...
there's no R value then.
No, you're not going to be taking geometric considerations if you don't have a geometric horizon. You don't need to take any thought experiment steps that reify physicality because you've been told to do so. No, there's no need for any of that. Any evidence that you can have gas pressure without the necessary antecedent of a container to press upon?
What did they say for that? Oh, gravity. They say gravity, don't they? And then they have to redefine gravity back to a pre-1915 position where it was once thought to be a force. They have to regress back to that one to address it. And gravity is not a pre-1915 position. It's defined, and we know its cause. Shout out to Einstein. Not that we're encouraging Einstein for the benefit of Bob. We're just getting the ballers to parrot back the current position. We do not encourage or support Einstein, just to be clear. Matt Doxey as well.
Okie dokie. That concludes the housekeeping.
So what should we do for another 40 minutes, Nathan?
What, now I've kicked out the liar?
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, having already geared myself up for a relatively quiet week, which I fully expect to continue, there's been the odd person come in, but Brenda, Rumpus, Bob the Science Guy, there was one other who'll come to me. Might have been Zanuck. I think it was, yeah, Zanuck. Have all lied. Like, barefaced lied to us here in the last 2 weeks. And to be perfectly honest, I'm more than happy at this stage to start drawing a line under it. Why should we have them? I'm almost happy to let them obfuscate and work around it and, you know, fight to get your point in when they're rumbling and rumpusing and all that stuff. Because if they've got a reasonably tenable argument, that's justifiable. But when they just come in and lie, is it worth the audience's time listening to them just repeatedly lie? We've already got her on record. we've got her on record lying a couple of times now. So what possible benefit could she serve here? Is my question. Hey, Paul.
Good morning.
Well, it's clearly the case that she's here just to obfuscate, lie, deceive. It's almost as if she gets given a mission statement every day, and she gets paid to say as many times in the one hangout as she can that gravity is a force, for example, or that whatever it is for the day. It's as if she's got to keep saying key words and as many times as she can until she gets kicked out. Because obviously we know that the more we talk about gravity doing something, then the more real it becomes, regardless of whether it actually exists or not. So the more she talks about these things, the more it seems real, without any evidence whatsoever that these things actually exist.
Maybe. I think they're lying to themselves. I think they want their religion to be real. The general mainstream, when they go outside of this circuit, is all just of the impression that the Earth's a sphere, that's normality, and they want that. They want it back.
I don't think they are lying to themselves. I don't think you can honestly maintain your position when you're shown that your position is untenable. It can only be the case that they're being paid to be here to do this. Because why would you keep coming back? I don't go into GemPanda's server because every time I go in there, all I get is memes. Nasty memes that are designed to insult. Well, I don't mind that, but it just shows the mentality of, you're not welcome here, go away. Okay, I'll go away. I won't come back. I don't want to go where I'm not wanted. But why does Brenda come back? You have to ask that question.
To convince us South Earth's still a sphere.
Yeah, that's it, Anthony, because
she thinks she's a zealot and a martyr. She's taking the whipping for her religious icon, the globe, and the authority of the government that knows better. Pretty sure it's something like that.
Yeah, well put. I'd agree with that. Self-flagellation. She's a masochist. That's why.
Yeah.
It's the second time I've heard somebody allude to the wishful thinking argument. This is no big deal. It's the second time that's happened. I like it. Keep telling yourselves it's not that important. Don't worry about it. Get on with your day. Like I said to Brenda, we'll be over here having a party about the fact that you don't have any geometry anymore, and that's what your religion's based on. So it's party over here, head in the sand over there. They're not having any fun. We can't see it. Hey, Awakened Narrative, thank you very much for the super chat. This channel is single-handedly smashing the globe. I know there's plenty of channels. Shout out to Arwin, as I did already. Flat Earth Early Bird. Shout out to Quantum Eraser, Sleeping Warrior. Loads of channels.
Thanks.
I just want to give a very public apology. I said something yesterday that was a bit unfair. Arwin, whilst I was having a rant against Bob's pushing of this new form of gravity that he wants to exist, whilst dismissing the demonstration I showed where that initial bias was caused by changing the medium, Bob, I inadvertently, accidentally, and unintentionally insulted and caused offence when I referenced Bob to be a little, quote, Arwinian. Bob, I am very sorry for upsetting you. Sorry,
you didn't. You bastard.
I'm sorry. I just had to get that in, Arwin. I'm sorry.
I think you'll find that was a very ranty-esque apology.
Sorry, Arwin. No, seriously, I didn't mean to offend you, Arwin. It was done just to make a point. I didn't mean to upset you.
It's okay. You already kind of apologized genuinely in the chat.
I know, but you did
get
say you wanted like a public retraction kind of thing or something similar, so I thought, fuck it, I'll give you one.
No, it's okay. I get it.
I just love the fact that you'd have been like, what do you mean, Bob?
I don't think Bob is Arwinian. He doesn't have the elven lineage for that.
Can we not discuss Bob on a personal level? It's all well and good you two taking the piss out of each other. He's not here to defend himself, but on a personal level, if you've got an issue with something he's asserting on subject.
No.
I'm more than
I
happy.
wasn't going to go into it. I'm just saying that he just doesn't have the elven lineage to be deemed Arwinian. It's just wrong.
Yeah, we weren't actually talking about Bob. It was because I referenced Darwinian as the descriptive word to describe what he was doing with gravity, and Arwin took offense to it. And he said, "You should apologize. That's not fair." And I was like, "Okay, then."
Anyway,
Well, let's go.
So, what can we do now? We haven't got any ballers to defend the religion anymore.
And that's so sad because in my chat, man, there's plenty of ballers still hanging around, like this Professor Phil Bell guy and George Sanford and Paul Roberts. And I had this back and forth discussion in my chat for, I don't know, at least 20 minutes or so about, Professor Phil Bell claiming that he has scientific proof for evolution in the ball. It's just, they keep on doing it. I just wish that they would actually take the next step and join the Flat Earth Debate Discord panel to see if they can actually, with words, put it down. I wonder if they would be as good.
They can't because they claim that they're on protest because Nathan's got the mute button. But what actually happens is Nathan stops them from begging the question and performing logical fallacies whilst they lie through the teeth about what's going on with the world. And Nathan doesn't do it anymore, doesn't let them get away with that. And that's why they can't join. But they blame being on protest. Well, it's not actually true, is it? You can't, because you've got to say things like, if we're on a ball, then gyroscopes or pendulums must do something. Gyroscopes and pendulums seem to do something. That must mean that we're on a ball.
right, quick couple of shout outs. So, shout out to Awaken Narrative. He says, not single handedly, pimp handedly. And then gives me a high five. I'm not their pimp. People are independent of me. They come of their own volition. Just let's get that in there. But thank you very much for the support, Awaken Narrative. Also, JG Gonzalez says, or Jose JG Flip-Flop, I should say, says, play and explain my boat video link in Skype. Well, I'm not entirely sure how many of the audience have got you on Skype, but if you are on Skype with Jose, check out his video and explain it to him. He doesn't understand, clearly. Thank you very much for the super chat, Jose. Also, shout out to Brandon Toy Motown FE. He says, it's too bad Sean is too scared to join the show. I don't know who Sean is, but thank you very much for the super chat, Brandon Toy. Let's just scroll up and see who's in here called Sean. Oh, Sean Hawkins tagging me. Of course it is. Yeah. I'm sure he's in chat sharing his pain.
Sean Hawkins is the best, one of the stupidest ballers, because he tells everybody that we've got to prove the Earth's flat to demonstrate that you can't have gas pressure. He thinks that the burden of proof lies with us to prove that the Earth's flat, right? He doesn't think that he has to prove anything because it's scientifically considered and everybody agrees. He thinks the burden of proof's on us. It's like, hello, you're the one that tells us gravity exists. Where is it?
He's not as dumb as Dawn. I mean, he's pretty dumb, but he's not as dumb as Dawn. Come on. Credit where credit's due. Low credit there, that is.
I don't know. It's a dumb off.
I don't know. I think that Don is actually smarter because he does know it is a belief.
No, it is a dumb off.
Hold on. Somebody in Discord was trying to say something, and then I'll read out Alexander's super chat. Go ahead, whoever it was in Discord.
Nathan, this is Marcus.
Hey, Marcus.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, loud and clear.
Yeah, so I got yeah, thank you. I got a response from Danny Faulkner when he asked about the viable hypothesis in his field. I want to share his response was, give me 1 second. He asked, we would like to request for a viable scientific hypothesis in your field that we can add to our research. He said, one that I would suggest is the cause of lunar phases. That's his response.
The what? I didn't. You're a bit close to your mic, so we've got quite a lot of plosives, but say that again.
Okay. So his response was, one that I would suggest is the cause of lunar phases.
The cause of lunar phases? He thinks that's a viable hypothesis. A hypothesis establishes an independent and dependent variable. In a scientific hypothesis, you'll also have a null. So you've got your IV, you've got your DV. You'd also normally go through any control variables, and you have your alternative and null. In other words, a confirmation of what you think causes an effect, and the null hypothesis, which is to say what you assume causes the effect does not cause the effect. That's a hypothesis. So what he said is the cause of lunar phases. That was his hypothesis. So that's Dr. Daniel Faulkner, who doesn't know what science is. So let's just make that a declaration.
Go back to Daniel Faulkner and ask him what was his independent variable in his cause of lunar phases experiment.
Perfect.
I actually asked him, may I know who has done this experiment so I can look it up? And his response was, it's so long, it's like obfuscating. The conventional explanation of lunar phases is based on a very good inference from a multitude of observations of the moon. He goes on to say, the problem is very few people have actually done these observations for themselves. But if one consistently carries out these observations every clear night over many months, one quickly sees that the hypothesis explains what we see very well. I know of no other hypothesis that does. That's his answer.
Did you point out that there wasn't an independent variable in his observation?
No. He said the hypothesis explains, at a fundamental level, Dr. Daniel Faulkner does not understand what science is. A hypothesis is a supposition. It's not an explanation. He's moronic. At a fundamental level, he doesn't know what a hypothesis is. A hypothesis is a scientific prediction. It establishes cause and effect. It also has the antithesis of your prediction. If A, then B, being your prediction. If A, not B, being the antithesis of your prediction. That's a null. That's a scientific prediction, otherwise known as hypothesis. He hasn't got a clue what one is. He's a moron. Dr. Daniel Faulkner. My name is Nathan Oakley. You are a pretender, clown, not a scientist. You don't know what a hypothesis is. You should be stripped of any accreditation. You're definitely not a scientist. You should be ashamed of yourself. That's your answer? My God.
I also asked you guys that. I also ask again if there's any viable scientific hypothesis in your field of astrophysics or just merely observation. That's what I asked him just earlier. Apparently, he's online, and he replied, "We use hypotheses to compare to and interpret our observations. For instance, I've observed eclipsing binary stars for more than 40 years. It is very clear from the observations that the best understanding is that two luminous bodies are orbiting one another, producing mutual eclipses as they do. If someone has a viable alternate hypothesis, I'd be interested in hearing it." That's his response.
Orbits is an assumption. It's a begging the question fallacy. It assumes objects of mass falling around one another. So that's a begging the question fallacy he's inserted into his hijacking of this scientific term called hypothesis, which he hasn't got, hasn't established, and definitely isn't scientific in any way, shape, or form. The guy's bastardized this word and then inserted his fundamentalist religious supposition as an explanation, which a hypothesis is not. It's a supposition yet to be tested. Testing a hypothesis would be called an experiment. An experiment would be where you vary that which you suppose causes the effect and confirm or invalidate your assumption by confirming the null, that which causes the effect by way of varying it. He's not doing any of that. He's merely got a supposition that he's begging the question of in this word orbits. So he's assuming mass of these bodies falling around one another when he looks at some twinkly lights. All right. So essentially, he bases his entire vision on the heliocentric model he is assuming when he describes with the word orbits what he sees and has no hypothesis for. None. How dare he even use that word?
He doesn't even have, or he doesn't address the independent variable part. And you could basically condense everything you've just said into one question. If it hasn't got an independent variable, is it a scientific experiment or not?
It's not even, he's not even at the experiment stage. He's trying to form a hypothesis. He's failed to do so, let alone experiment. He's not going to vary the cause of lunar phases. You've got to be joking.
Isn't all he has is an observation?
Yeah.
So that's actually what I've actually interacted with Danny Faulkner recently on this. He sent me an article that he wrote January 31st titled "The Scientific Method and the Flat Earth," and it's all about explaining how we just don't understand that there's a difference between observational science and experimental science.
Yeah, observational science doesn't exist because it's an observation study that they've raped the meaning of the word science to claim credit for which it isn't deserved. There is no such thing as observational science because science is defined. It requires observation and experiment. Observation alone isn't science. It falls short. So to have an observational science is a partial definition of the word science, but it's not complete. It has to have the experiment. Doesn't have it. So it can't be science.
And that's exactly what I told him, and he got upset and stopped talking to me.
Yeah, he did the same to me.
Actually, he got triggered from my response as well.
What was your
I think
response?
it's very strange that out of the blue, I haven't talked to him in months, and out of the blue, he sends me this. So clearly, he's very troubled by this fact.
I will come back to you, Biblical Earther. I'll just round out things with Marcus, and then I will come back to you, what you've done with
No problem.
your interactions with him. Sorry, what was your response to him, Marcus?
So, the last conversation we had, Nathan, the other day, regarding pressure differential, I asked him, we are looking for the answer on how do we have gas pressure without a container. We just need some explanation on how atmospheres seem to violate the second law of thermodynamics by not being sucked out by the vacuum of the supposed outer space. So he goes on to respond, vacuums don't suck. How do you think that the second law of thermodynamics is being violated? Be prepared to talk about macrostates and microstates, or else it would be very clear that you don't know what you are talking about. So that's his response.
And did you respond to him? Was that the end of the conversation?
Yeah, actually, I just want to take advantage of his being responsiveness. So I just said, I appreciate your response. I will look more into it. That's what I said. And then I go on to ask for a scientific hypothesis on his field. I forwarded you the whole conversation over in Discord, so you can check it out.
Microstates is just kind of like a position it could occupy. Paul's done several presentations on this. Paul, are you free?
Yeah, I could talk for a second. Just ask him. I'm sounding horrible. Just ask him how many microstates does the sky contain? See what he says.
Good question. Well, how many available microstates does the sky vacuum contain?
I'll ask him that.
But look into it. It's obviously, rather than just parroting off what we say, obviously look into what a microstate actually is. If not, go to yesterday's show, I think it might have been, and Paul does a full presentation on it. Explains how microstates are. It's a mathematical concept, obviously, but in terms of the available positions that a gas particle could occupy, that's the most simplest way I could dilute it down. Very oversimplified, but like I say, check out. Was it yesterday, Paul? Was it Monday?
I think that was the other day.
I think it was either Monday or Friday. I can't remember. Monday, yeah, someday I can't remember.
Yeah, I think that's probably why I've not trimmed it out. There were several things 10th Man Angie South did on Monday that I'm going to just basically mirror the whole show, the Uncut and After show, but on the main channel. So obviously the majority of it went out on the smaller second channel. Subscribe today, Nathan Oakley channel, link below, which is where Uncut and After show gets published. But what I tend to do is one of the 5 or 6 that go out during the week, I should say, I'll then repeat in full on the main channel on a Sunday. I tend to do it, but that just goes out under the best of. So last week's was like the JLB show, which was the most eventful of all the week shows. But I think what I'm intending to do, rather than trim out your bit 10th Man, is publish the whole lot on the main channel. So I will do that probably on Sunday. Weird, because I don't think there was any arguing with Globeheads on Monday. But it was still a really good show,
Nathan, I have another work done by Andrew Thomas Young on Master B under the title Understanding Astronomical Refraction. Someone could post that on and scroll. I don't know, Paul, if you want to do it like you did the other day. You can scroll through it.
I'm on my phone today. I'm not on my Chromebook. So
all right.
Your microphone's actually better on your phone than it is on whatever it is that you normally use.
I've got it on screen now, so I don't know if you want to just move my Discord out of the way. It's on screen.
Yeah, just tell me. Tell me when it's on your screen, and
Yeah,
we'll go
it's
from
on.
there.
It's on.
Okay, so it says on the top, understanding astronomical refraction, and then preamble, same page that I'm looking at here.
Yeah, I'll take it off the tab just so
Okay.
people can see. Oh, damn it.
Okay.
There we go. Understanding astronomical refraction.
All right. Just 3 paragraphs. That's all we need to read here. The textbooks present atmospheric refraction as a complicated subject, replete with arcane formula, bizarre series expansions, approximations that completely hide the underlying physics. In fact, refraction is basically quite simple, though there are few real complications to be dealt with. Most of the apparent complications are baggage from the 19th century, when computing was done by means of logarithm tables and numerical quadratures, were frowned upon. Unfortunately, the century's analytical methods are a poor match to the refraction problem because they had to approximate the structure of the whole atmosphere by some analytical form. But the real atmosphere is full of fine structure, forcing a model, remember that, forcing a model to represent everything from ground to space is not only unrealistic. So for forcing a model is unrealistic, but makes it impossible to see what parts of the atmosphere produce mirages, green flashes, and other refraction phenomena. Finally, the goal of representing refraction accurately from the zenith to the horizon is illusory. On the observational side, refraction cannot be measured accurately near the horizon. And from a practical point of view, the near horizontal refraction is so sensitive to the structure of the lowest atmospheric layers, which are highly variable, that it is pointless. Remember that. It is pointless to try to represent refraction at low altitudes accurately at all. In fact, thermal structure too small to measure directly can produce quite large variations in near horizontal refraction, so that the tables and the formula based on mean atmospheric models are not only useless but deceptive. Refraction at the horizon commonly varies by many minutes of arc and occasionally exceeds nominal values of degree or more. Oh, I just love reading his work. What say you?
Did you have any conclusions you wanted to draw from that, or is that it? Because if that's it,
Well,
I'll move on.
Mike, that's it. Because my conclusions is that he fights for one side of the argument and then he goes to the other side, and it's like so much doublespeak. I think he's confused himself, and he just has to accept some of the shenanigans that he says.
That's certainly how it reads. I just want to give a shout out. Alexander, thank you very much for the super chat. It says, what do you think about a new housekeeping question? Is there any evidence of a geometric horizon on a presupposed ball Earth? Yeah, that's kind of the first housekeeping question. I like your phraseology, though. Thank you very much for the super chat, Alexander. Also, Biblical Earther, I know he's been waiting in the sidelines to talk about his experiences with Dr. Daniel Faulkner, so if you're still around, Biblical Earther.
Yeah, I'm here. I don't want to spend a lot of time on it because some of it, obviously, we've already covered a bunch, but I just thought it was really interesting that out of the blue, he sends me this article covering, the difference and between, what he thinks observational science is and experimental science. And I don't know how true this is, but apparently Danny Faulkner's a millionaire. He's paid to write these articles, and then he's out here, basically seeking, to basically win these arguments with people, and just the way he goes about it is it's really fascinating to me. But the one thing I did want to bring up from the article, I can't share the article. I can tell you where to get it, but if I can share just the closing part of the article. He says, some critics of science, including flat earthers, claim that science commits the fallacy of affirming the consequent. Affirming the consequent is a fallacy of deductive reasoning. If science used primarily deductive logic, then that would be a valid objection. But science employs primarily inductive reasoning. Affirming the consequent is not a fallacy in inductive reasoning.
John's got a citation directly against that. Deductive reasoning. Nathan, do you remember? Or do you recall?
Vaguely.
John's got something specifically against saying that science is deductive, not inductive. I hope you're around when John joins when he gets his breakfast. He's a bit grumpy of a morning, but if you're here and we get him on a good day, we might actually get him to do something here for us because he's got a specific reference that says that science is deductive.
Are you trying to poke the bear?
Yeah.
Why?
Because he's a grumpy bear of a morning. Which bear are you on about, John?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's a grumpy bear of a morning. It's okay.
Real quick, I just dropped a link in the Discord live stream for microstates that I presented the other day.
Marcus, if you heard that, feel free to utilize Paul's research. He's dropped it in the Discord live stream.
I'll check on it. Thank you.
No, it's just good if he's specifically asking about microstates and you didn't know what they were. Yeah, research them, find out what they are. And then, as Paul said, how many available microstates are there in the sky vacuum exactly? How many positions could the gas occupy, I wonder?
So if we get a direct reference that directly contradicts his claim that science is inductive, then you want to go back and give him and ask him why does such and such a university disagree with him?
I don't know, it's already been pretty much demonstrated by his responses that he's a pretender clown, pseudoscientist, and literally doesn't know what science is. He's declared that his hypothesis is observe and declare. No, that definitely isn't a scientific hypothesis, Dr. Daniel Faulkner. You don't know what science is.
Making the point, though, that there's no viable hypothesis in the fields of astrology, whatever the rest of it is.
Cosmology, astronomy, and astrophysics.
Yeah.
The two features of...
Say again, Marcus?
So I was just trying to look it up, scientific hypothesis in Britannica website. Should be falsifiability and testability. I'm not sure if Dr. Danny Faulkner knows that.
If you say you've got a hypothesis, all I want to know is what are your control variables, what was your presumed cause, and what is the effect you're studying. That's all I really want to know. That's what a hypothesis is.
Well, in here he says the scientific method as often taught. He says the method is usually defined as using the following steps. First, a question is posed.
My God. Science buddies, Google search number 1. Ask a question. Am I going to have roast chicken? Now let's do some science. No. Observe natural phenomena. You're dealing with cause and effect, not a question you're asking. My God, it's pathetic. Science buddies answers from doctors. Oh my God.
And then he goes on and just basically says that you have to ask to see if there's research that's already answered this question, and then you develop a hypothesis or an educated guess.
Does he define?
And that's when I responded to him and I said, I'm just not going to read any further. And then he got upset.
Does he define hypothesis?
I was going to ask the same question.
So he says, one develops an experiment to test this hypothesis. If the hypothesis is true, then the experiment ought to produce a certain outcome. This amounts to a prediction of the hypothesis. This usually is where the independent and dependent variables come in. So that's where he goes from as he's explaining these steps.
Well, can you converse, Biblical Earther, with Marcus and pass him on his quote? So clearly, he knows how to define...
From this article?
Oh, is that not Dr. Daniel Faulkner?
No, he wrote this article. That's what I mean. Daniel.
Yeah, that's what I mean. What I'm saying is, if you can pass that on to Marcus, he can then cite it back to him and say, in this article, you explain what a hypothesis is and how it requires independent and dependent variables by your own words. So for your phases, I'm specifically asking you, this is Marcus, I'm speaking on your behalf. I'm specifically asking you for a hypothesis. In this article, you explain hypothesis requires independent and dependent variables. Can you tell me what they are for this lunar thing, please? See what he says.
That'll be fun.
You could
That'll be
literally
a fun
use
conversation,
him
guys.
as a hostile witness to himself.
Yeah, exactly. He's his own hostile witness. Exactly, Chocolate.
Remember that with the independent variable,
I don't know how I can send this, but it's the scientific method and the flat Earth on answersingenesis.org. So you can look it up there, or I can send it somehow. Just let me know.
You can post it as a link. Copy the link to it and then stick it in live stream if you can. I don't know. I don't use the Discord live stream, so I don't actually know how to tell you how to do that. Just post it in live stream. I'm sure it's very easy.
Guys,
there you go. I'll do it right now.
Send it to me. You can send it to me on Discord if you want. You can DM it to me. Chocolate saying the same name.
Got it. I'll paste it. I'm pasting it right now in Discord, and then I'll send it to you.
Perfect. So between you and Marcus, hopefully Marcus is armed with the understanding of what a microstate is and how that's a big problem if you've got bazillion available microstates in a sky vacuum for the gas to occupy, and also his obfuscation of your original question, which was in regards to a hypothesis that's valid. Now, what he's offered you is a load of word salad based on observational declarations, as opposed to what he's citing in his own article, where he says you need independent and dependent variables. So you've got him by pure luck, because you're now going to get him by the balls with his own reference, which is just ace.
But do remember, this is important. Remember that when he starts talking about independent variables, you have to manipulate it, because that's the proof that it's the cause and the effect relationship. You can't calculate it. You can't explain it. You can't interpret it. You've got to wiggle it. And if you don't wiggle it, it's not an independent variable. It might be a presumed cause, but you're not proving that there's a cause and effect relationship, which is the whole point. So that's the key point to remember if he starts talking in that language.
You want to add anything, Marcus, or biblical? Because then I'm going to summarise this point for the audience's benefit.
For me, Nathan, I actually understand where you guys are coming from in terms of the scientific method. I've been following this show for quite some time now. I'll be looking into this two links provided to me by Biblical Earther and one through them all. So I look more into this and take advantage of Faulkner's responsiveness. Thank you.
Perfect. So for the audience's benefit, the independent variable is your presumed cause in the hypothesis. So what you think causes an effect. Now the effect is your dependent variable. So Dr. Daniel Faulkner has the understanding that a hypothesis requires the cause of an effect. Now he also makes it clear that it's a suppositional statement. In other words, what you think causes the effect. So in this instance, having been asked for a hypothesis that's valid from his field, he's offered up phase changes of the moon and is now going to be asked, given that, let's paraphrase the question that might be asked, obviously I'm not going to put words in Marcus's mouth, given that I will assume the phase changing is the dependent variable, the effect that we're observing, what's the cause of that effect? The IV, the independent variable. And if he says Earth rotating, you'll say, how did you vary it? Because that's how you do science. How would you vary this presumed cause? And until it's varied, it's not going to be validated. But that's how it potentially could pan out, just for future reference. Anything you wanted to add, Biblical Earther?
If you want to know where there's a good citation for 10 citations that you've got to manipulate the independent variable, there's a nice convenient video where they're all cited in the description box on my channel. And it's basically this, it's called This Ball Earther Refuses to Admit That He's Wrong or something like that. It's about John Watson. Don't mistake John Watson for our John Watson spelt John. This is a moron with Jon Watson. And he thinks that you can correlate the independent variable. And when I gave him 10 citations that state that you've got to wiggle it, he still wouldn't back down and admit he was wrong. And basically, he was kind of the reason why I realized that these morons will never concede any points, because they're all absolutely fundamentally dishonest.
Thank you, Marcus and Biblical Earther. That was very cool. Fun.
Yeah, I went ahead and sent that over to Marcus. So So you should have that in your messages. And I'll just say that what is interesting about Faulkner is that he keeps trying to engage, and like I haven't reached out to him in a long time. But then the moment you crush his pathetic arguments, he cries foul and runs away. So it's very interesting.
He blocked me because I was pointing out that some of his claims were fallacious or incorrectly cited or cited with a contradictory evidence that didn't support them. And he just blocked me. He kicked me out of the group I was in, blocked me. And, it's censorship. They don't like being challenged.
Right.
No, they just want to beat you over the head with their education that they've gotten.
Yeah. You will respect
You
my
guys think
authority.
he's dishonest?
Say that again,
Yeah.
Marcus.
Do you guys think he is dishonest or just stupid or cognitive dissonance?
I think that he is very dishonest, but I also think that for his own psyche, he's trying to reconcile the fact that there's so many people that are questioning the official, quote unquote scientific stance on these issues.
The thing is, when he wrote his book, he claims that he's refuting the claims of flat earthers, right? Most flat earthers that I know tend not to make that many claims because we know we can't prove that the earth's flat everywhere, right? So most of us don't really make that claim. We say if we're going to make it, it's definitely locally flat where we live. It's obviously flat. It's observably flat. Doesn't mean it's flat everywhere because we can't prove it, but we realize we can't prove it. And that's why we don't make many claims. Yet when he writes his section to do with gravity, which most of us just say doesn't exist, he then fails to mention the current position by science that Einstein said what gravity is. We do know what gravity is. It's defined. We do know what causes it on your official narrative, your model. It's the curvature of space-time caused by the uneven distribution of mass. So we do know what your model tells us gravity is. Trouble is, he didn't mention it once in his book. How can you get away with not mentioning the current science when you're a PhD in astrophysics and you write this book refuting the claims of flat earthers when we're asking what is gravity and you don't even mention the current position? Einstein is your god. You have to cite him. He didn't even cite it. He's a joke.
I could have swore.
Yeah, I think he's just his whole life has been centered around astronomy, and
just
so
1 second, Biblical Earther.
he's got to figure
bear
out
with
how
me.
to.
Can you not hear me?
Go ahead.
Hello. Sorry, just bear with me a second. I could have swore during that discourse, Anthony, that you mentioned that he said that it was a reference 150 pages further on, and that therefore he had referenced Einstein at some point in the book. It just wasn't specific to the part where he was talking about gas pressure without a container.
No, he did mention Einstein, but it was in the context of special relativity and light refracting. He didn't mention it in the context of general relativity, which is the current position by science of gravity. Einstein's theory on general relativity, that is the current position. He didn't mention Einstein once in gravity, although he did mention it in special relativity, but that's not in the context of gravity when he mentioned it, and it was only like 2 lines as well.
Okay, I just wanted to get that clear. Sorry, Biblical Earther, carry on. My bad for interrupting. I just wanted to get that clear.
No problem. No, I was just saying that I think that he has to defend his position because it's his whole life, and he's staked everything on the fact that he's an astronomer, and we've gone back and forth over and over against about these issues for over a year, and I think at the end of the day he knows something's up, but he has to continue to fight against it.
Got a lot to lose. Got a lot to lose.
Yeah, I mean, apparently he's a millionaire based off of being a creationist, which, good for him. But, and personally, I agree with a lot of the stances that creationists bring, but it's very, very, I've argued with him mostly on scripture. He always tries to go back to the science, and as we've shown repeatedly, he basically has no clue. He's indoctrinated to the core.
That's the main problem with science. What?
Again, Marcus?
No, I was just saying, or he's just plainly dishonest.
I think it's a bit of all
Sorry,
three.
carry on.
You gave a list of 3. I think it's all 3. A little bit dishonest. Yeah, in places. Bit cognitive dissonance, yeah, in places. Bit just not smart enough to realise. Go on, sorry, Anthony.
What is it called when you're a PhD? You write a book refuting claims of flat earthers. You address gravity, but you don't mention the current position by science. Given that you're a subject matter expert, even if you're only self-proclaimed, what would that be? Would that be dishonest, or would it be just recklessness? It wasn't a rhetorical question.
We can't divine motivation. We can only speculate.
No, I'm not asking for the motivation. I'm asking what categorization of error is it? Is it recklessness, or is it dishonesty? Is it intentional?
I think it's dishonesty.
Well, that's motivational.
Yeah, given the fact that he's a PhD in his field.
Exactly.
I'm sure he knows the current rhetoric.
Maybe. Doesn't know what science is. But then he does in an article he wrote a few years ago. Weird, hey?
Yeah, correct.
Well, what do people do in a belief system when they're being challenged and they don't have an answer? They pick and choose, how to defend or how to project what they believe in. So that's all he's doing.
Start fighting. That's the essence of why religion always ends up in wars. Because when you challenge somebody's beliefs to a point where they can't hold it anymore, it often turns violent because how dare you challenge my beliefs? These are my beliefs. You can't take them away. They're mine.
Could that be our purpose here? Softly ease the rest of the public into the obvious and observable nature of reality and dilute the lie down as much as humanly possible. So if we want to assist this process, if we believe that we are one of the cogs, I'm theorising, or whatever the word is, just having an idea about what the way things could be. If we're a cog in that mechanism, and we're just here to ease the public into the idea without having the lie being overtly stated as a lie, then the way we would help that process along is by showing where they haven't lied. So, for example, recently we've been saying, well, not Daniel Faulkner, the other guy, I've forgotten his name already, with the Horizon's 10th Man. What's his name? God damn it.
Andrew Thomas Young.
Andrew Thomas Young. Thank God. Right. Andrew Thomas Young's fake horizons are declared to be thought experiments. And the model itself is declared to be a model. So there's a few get out of jail free cards in there. Doublespeak. Now, if they're being highlighted, in other words, no foul, no harm, maybe the process will be a little bit more smooth. Maybe the transition will be a little bit more cognitively acceptable for our opponents if they go, well, yeah, I kind of understood it was always a way of seeing things, and, it won't be as embarrassing, maybe. I don't know, I'm just thinking of how your average Joe Blogs is going to, turn out in war, or however you just phrased it, if they just go from being under the assumption that they're on a physical geometric sphere with a physical horizon for boats to go over, to the obvious and observable flat nature of our reality that they actually experience in their day-to-day existence. Well, that cognitively is going to be too painful for some to bear. That's what we experience, right, in the trenches? That's what we're talking about when we call it the trench talk of our opponents. So we're kind of having the mini battles, the mini wars, to see how it all sort of how the land lies at the end of that process. This is one of those transitional periods right now with the Black Swan. The dust is settling. And, you're observing what's going on right now. I'm sure there are people who are extremely keen to watch this from the outside in and will not let themselves be known in any way, shape or form. But they're going to look on what's going on now and going, there is a certain degree of inevitability that's being escalated. Maybe that needs addressing. Certainly isn't being by the people in the trenches. They're not getting any help, right? They're just getting pummeled all over the place. So maybe it'll be addressed in the affirmative for their cause, and the Globe will get some sort of shot in the arm to help them out in this case, to kill off all the black swans and hope that none of the public noticed that there were ever any. I don't know what we're going to do. That might be their thought process. They might be in panic. Whoever they may be, there might not be a they. This might be all a cognitive process of our own doing, and all the people we point at and say are guilty, like Dr. Daniel Faulkner, actually have got no ill intent whatsoever, have been fooled by their own cognition and the processes of the books they've read and what they've reified without realising it. And therefore there's no one really to blame. and it's just a journey of self-discovery in terms of how the society that we're in has formed this idea about where we live, when no one's really foisting it upon us at all. And even the people that are make it clear in their own doublespeak that it's just a thought experiment or a model. So, you know, who's to blame? Well, only yourself for being deceived. But that's kind of embarrassing, and people don't like that. So is this really all the argument's about? How can we figure out how to stop people feeling ashamed that they've reified a model? Stop the embarrassment of your average Joe going, yeah, I didn't really think we were on a ball. I just like watching Superman. You know, whatever. But that transition is something that they've got to, presumably, if there is a they, see in the process we're going through. How does the dust actually settle? You know, how do the people on the other side cognitively cope with this? Maybe they're not turning their eye to us in this very quiet period. They're actually looking at the fundies who oppose us and how they're processing it. You know, are they genuinely going to pieces? Are they all jumping off buildings? Because obviously, if that's the case, you know, you can't let your cattle jump off buildings. You've got to do something about that. So maybe they're watching them as opposed to us right now, and they're, you know, our little celebrations and parties can all be ignored. Who cares? You know, they're celebrating the Black Swan over there, but meanwhile, we've got to keep our eye on this dead cattle because they're on the road to cognitive, you know, annihilation at the moment because they can't cope with it. So maybe we're not being paid attention to if we're a cog in that machine I theorised.
Be interesting to see how many people do deal with this, because more and more people are beginning to realise that even if we get a couple of things wrong along the way or slightly inaccurate, the bulk of the points that we make can't be demonstrated to be wrong. You can't have gas pressure without a tyre. You can't have curvature without curve. You can't have gravity without gravity. You've got to demonstrate these things. If you guys are funny with us claiming the ether, fine. Well, you guys say we can't have the ether because it's never been demonstrated to exist. Well, neither's gravity, neither's geometry, neither's curvature, neither's axial rotation. So are the same standards applied against you guys, or do they only apply against us? Over.
It's a good rhetorical question. I was leaving the pause for dramatic effect before I asked the audience in the Nathan Oakley channel to stay tuned, as there will be an after show to follow. Unfortunately, if you're watching this live on the Nathan Oakley 1980 channel, this is where we bid you farewell. A huge, massive, enormous thank you to all of you who smashed the super chat, liked, commented, shared, subscribed, and all that good stuff. Of course, a massive thank you to all of today's Discord and G+ panels for making this live show possible. Stay tuned if you're watching on the Nathan Oakley premiering stream, and I'll see you all in the next video.
Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!